Next, we're going to turn our attention to creating a pivot chart. So you should be in exercise number 4 and have saved the file as exercise 4 complete to preserve the original file. You'll know that you still have the manpower data tab and a pivot table tab. When you open the pivot table tab, if the pivot table pane does not appear, click on a data cell inside the pivot table and you'll see that data appear. And you should just confirm that the structure of the pivot table is as we left it in exercise 3. That is, you've got the organizations on the left, authorized, assigned, and vacant with a command filter on top. So if we are there, the next step we're going to do is to filter the pivot table to only the air combat command. So under the command filter, we're going to click on the drop-down menu, leave ACC, and remove all other commands. And when we do that, only the air combat commands are remaining. Next, we're going to insert the pivot chart. So we're going to click any cell inside the data table. We're going to go to Insert. And from there, we're going to insert a pivot chart. The pivot chart should appear as it appears on the screen. And you just want to confirm that the content of the chart reflects the content on the table. Now we're going to move that pivot table to a new sheet. So clicking on the pivot table, we're going to click on Move Chart. And we're going to move that to we're going to call it Pivot Chart. And we're going to move it to a new sheet. So now that we've got that pivot table in a new sheet, we're going to arrange the worksheets so that the pivot table, the pivot chart rather, is to the right of the pivot table. And now we're going to look at the design. We're going to look at our various design options. So as you can see, you have options to change the design of the pivot chart. So we'll select that option. Next, we're going to add a pivot chart title. So under Add Chart Elements, we're going to click on there. We're going to add chart title. We're going to put it above the chart. And we'll call it ACC Manpower Position by Organization. We'll review the legend to make sure that the legend properly reflects the data. And we'll hide these field buttons so that only the pivot chart appears. Now we're going to confirm that the pivot chart pivot table connection is clear. So to do that, we'll go back to the pivot table. We'll select an organization other than ACC. So let's select Air Education Training Command. And the pivot chart should change. So as you can see, we now have training wings as opposed to the combat units from Air Combat Command. Obviously, the title didn't change because that is a manual entry. We'll return the filter back to ACC. And as you can see, the pivot chart updates based on that change. So that is how you create a pivot chart from a pivot table. Now it's your turn.